Hi, this is Garrett Gunderson. I'm glad you've chosen to put in this disc and take a peek, because Business Fast Track has been something we've been doing this for several years and been getting massive results. Actually, I remember as I started, it was called Mental Fast Track initially, and we would do the quarterly quantums, and we would do some one-on-one coaching. And what we found was, I remember that one person saying they got 10 times growth in one area of their business, and I was like, wow, this is pretty amazing, and got really excited about it. We had participants start building out models even deeper than what we were first showing, it integrating into businesses that they were buying, and that it's just expanded ever since. But we've kept certain things completely consistent. The quarterly quantums, although those workbooks get updated based upon current trends and things that are happening, and actually brand new ones written based upon the problems that certain members are facing within the Business Fast Track. You recently wrote one on business rhythm and habits, and just had a session on that, which absolutely I got so much positive feedback about. I was told that they would have given it a 10 out of 10, but the room was cold, so they gave it a 9 out of 10.
A little too frosty for them.
So, but getting together and working in those groups and being able to communicate with different people in the group, and what have they learned, what are their best practices, and then actually writing out a plan so that when you go away, you actually have one-on-one coaching. This has always been and always will be something that's a very personal and tailored process. Having that one-on-one attention so that you can talk about specific things happening in your life and get the advice at the right time. Pull in the systems based upon what you're currently going through. And so in here, we're going to talk about some examples of the different topics, the different concepts, and some of those principles and how those apply. We'll also discuss how the format of Business Fast Track works so you can get an idea of the opportunity. And this is really good for you to watch this before you do a business assessment to find out how this might work for your business and what results you may get. So this is a kind of a precursor before you get on the phone with someone from our team, or maybe even Brandon himself, before you start the program. So let's talk a little bit about the quarterly quantum to begin with, and how long those are, how often they are, what different topics are, and what people typically leave with.
Yeah. So the quarterly quantum is our workshop, and it's not a seminar. I hate it when people call it a seminar, but it's a workshop because we do work. We work on specific areas of the business in the quarterly quantum. We do them typically anywhere from 4 to 5 times a year. We call them quarterly quantums because we did them every quarter, but there have been times where they've been, bi-monthly quantums. So they're day-and-a-half events, and it's basically up to 25 business owners in a room working for a day and a half on a specific area of their business. And we have 7 topics now. Business habits, which you just mentioned, which was brand new.
Tell me a little bit about business habits and why those are important, obviously, and what they are exactly. What do you mean by it?
So business habits, it's important. What we realized in coaching was that if there aren't the right habits in place, anything that we talk about from a systems and processes standpoint to implement into the business, they're not going to happen because there's not the right habits in place to allow for that to be implemented. And so we took a look at, do people do power hours? We talk a lot about that in the financial realm, but it's so important for a business owner to have that time to get up in the morning and really reset. Do they work on their business versus in? Now, sometimes we'll talk to a business owner about that, and they'll say, well, yeah, I work on my business every day, all day. And it's like there's a difference between being a technician, as Michael Gerber calls it in the E-Myth, to being basically an owner or an operator of the business. Those are 2 different things, and helping people really create that distinction between the 2 different hats. We talk about financials. So unfortunately, a lot of our business owner members will tell us that the only time they look at their profit and loss is to get their taxes done. And so we'll set up some rhythms for them to look at their profit and loss more frequently, and also to give them some ideas of what they should be looking at. Where are they bloated in expenses? Where should they be? How much does it cost them to provide certain services to their whoever their clientele is? We talk about managing by objectives and really setting up a rhythm of setting goals for their business and how they can manage that within their team. So, and the next part is relationships. We talk a lot about relationships, the habit of how often do you communicate with your team? Do you review their progress regularly? If I were to ask your team right now where they stood in your business, would they be able to tell me with absolute certainty how well they were performing within your business, and how do you then create a coaching structure for them to raise their level of performance? So
I look at it kind of like, what you're teaching them is how to go from first gear, second, third, fourth, into
Yeah.
fifth, into overdrive, where a lot of businesses are first to fourth, to starting in third, and a little
Absolutely.
choppy out because they don't know what days they're doing certain things. There isn't rhythms of when they're doing certain reporting, and therefore it feels more chaotic and overwhelming.
Absolutely.
When there's rhythms, and you know, Rick Sapio says a business that's a good business is set up with good habits.
Yes.
He says a business is merely a set of habits. Do you have a good or bad business depends upon the habits that you set.
Absolutely.
And that's the same as life. Whether it's how we eat, exercise, engage in, you know, relationships like marriage and different things like that, it's all, there's got to be certain habits and rhythms. And when you get that, you can have a different level of progress and break through to that next ceiling and keep peace of mind.
Right.
You know, so it's not so chaotic. So that's, you know, I think that's a good insight. And as I started saying, okay, Mondays are for the business, Tuesdays are for key relationships, Wednesdays are for projects, Thursdays are for coaching, Fridays are for speaking and creation. I started to create certain rhythms and habits, and I broke through to another level of prosperity in the business, a new level of peace of mind. When I leave at a certain time, I just created some of those structures based upon what you're teaching, and I saw the results. We've seen other members have those types of results where they're like, I didn't realize that I actually could invent this much time.
Right.
That there's actually a lot of waste when you're moving from gear to gear, and I have to train my team. I only do these types of meetings at this time. I only do them during these hours, and you know what? You just get a lot more done during that.
Well, absolutely. And the biggest thing is we want to help people move from the concept and the myth of time management, which is a myth because everyone has the same amount of time to work with. It's how you use that. So we prefer the terminology sole purpose management. How do you manage your sole purpose throughout your day-to-day workings? And so the better you manage your sole purpose, the better your results are ultimately going to become. And it's about creating the landscape, creating time and space to do projects. You mentioned projects, and a lot of times we'll do things that are destructive, like a to-do list. And then we'll try to check things off a to-do list as the day goes on, but then we always realize there are 3 or 4 items at the bottom of the list that don't get done.
Right.
And then what do we do with those? We either try to carry them over to the next day, or sometimes we forget about doing them altogether, and then that's an incomplete project.
Right, and we lose energy and power. So, this time and space concept will be breakthrough when people really understand what you mean by space, and that's something they would definitely get.
Absolutely.
And you're mentioning sole purpose, so I just want to say this. You know, in Financial Fast Track, we call it the sole purpose activator. And so what we mean by activation is just integrating that into their life, into their finances, and really as a cornerstone of their wealth. But it's more of an awareness.
Right.
When you get in the Business Fast Track, we call it the sole purpose expander.
Right.
And the reason it's an expander is how you tap into relationships, how you tap into principles, and how you create a structure that supports the greatest expression of that. And it's those relationships and that expression that turns into profit, that expands one's sole purpose. And so we have to create the structure for their capabilities and abilities to come through, the direction that they can be focused. And I think just this is one module we're talking about here with business habits. Now, let's go to another module with the Quarterly Quantum, and that's marketing, because I know you've updated that a lot since I first wrote it in 2007.
Yeah. So the quantum is called quantum marketing, and it's really about building a plan. A lot of times we think that our biggest problem in our business with growth is our marketing.
Right.
But typically it's something else. And that's what we help you to discover, that it's, look, if your business isn't growing, it's not because of marketing, it's because you're doing something else. And we don't have time to get into that today. But that's an important distinction that we make. But then we help them plan their marketing. For instance, do they measure return on investment in the different things that they're doing in their marketing? Do they have a website, and does it function as a profit center? Does it actually bring in business?
Does it convert?
How do you know? Are you able to create content and really educate people? We work with a lot of chiropractors, for instance, and in the chiropractic realm, this is really a misunderstood industry. And so how do you educate people and get them comfortable with the type of paradigm shift that you're trying to create in the healthcare system? Well, you can do that through marketing. Education today is the new marketing. And so we help people understand how to create content, how to create relevant content, how to deliver it in a way that is efficient, so that you don't feel like it's burdensome on you as the business owner. How do we get your team engaged to kind of help you with the marketing process and identify that mix of those, the best marketing vehicles for your particular business? The problem with marketing a lot of times is there's a lot of people out there that give you a kind of done-for-you marketing system. It's the done-for-you system. You just plug this in and you're going to make it rain. Money's just going to fly into your pockets. And a lot of times people buy those systems and they realize they don't work. And it's because there's no one set marketing principle. We help you identify what's the best marketing system for you to implement into your business. It's like investing. So for people who are watching this who've gone through the Financial Fast Track, one of the first questions that they may ask us in the financial realm is, what are the best investment vehicles for us? And we say, well, that depends on the investor. Right? There's no such thing as risky investments, only risky investors. And so the same thing with marketing. There's no bad marketing vehicles. There's just marketing vehicles that either work for your practice or they don't.
Right. And so identifying, number one, that your team is a critical piece to your marketing. So that's one of the first parts of the workbook is understanding how everyone in the team can be part of the right representation and the brand. The next thing is accountability marketing. I mean, that's what I really hear is making your marketing accountable. So if something's working, do you know that you should be increasing that? You know, if something's not working, why are you continuing forward with that? And how are you tracking that? And how do you start to become an education marketer where you're getting into the pull marketing versus the push marketing? And so, and that kind of takes me to the next thing, which is maximizing mental capital, right? So here we're talking about marketing, and really there's this whole world of intellectual property, intellectual capital, mental capital that allows a business to be more of an authority and to have ways to educate while someone's actually asleep, right? Part of that is finding out what is their best method. Is it video? Is it audio? Is it writing? Is it you know? Is it speaking? I mean, it's finding their strengths and then finding out what is the easiest thing for them to implement to get the most progress. So they leave knowing what direct action they could be taking. And a lot of people have resources that are there. They just didn't recognize that it was mental capital, or they're not utilizing it properly. So I think that's part of the discovery process on that workbook.
Absolutely. Well, in maximizing mental capital is a lot about efficiency. So take a great example of this. And one of the questions that we ask in a snapshot is, do you leverage your value multidimensionally? And there's two things that happen with that question. Either number one, you don't understand what the heck we're even talking about. Or number two, you're like, no, I don't. And it concerns me because the only time I get paid is if I'm in there with an actual patient. And so we want to create situations with maximizing mental capital where it's like, look, if you go out and do a talk, for instance, Garrett, if you go out and do a talk, one of the best things that you can do is record that talk, right? Because you may be able to use that for something else. You could package that into a video.
I might transcribe it.
You could transcribe it and create a workbook and a video that goes along with that.
Take pieces, put it on a blog.
And now, you can create that for marketing purposes. Cut it up, distribute it through YouTube and different places to really get your word out there, much faster and further than you could just on your own. But now you've also got a vehicle that you can sell that can bring money to you, where you've already done the work, you've already spent the time, now you're just leveraging time that you've already spent.
The best marketing is one where someone gives you a check for it, and then they become a patient as well afterwards. So what I think is really cool here is that a lot of docs have personality-based businesses. So if they're not chairside or they're not adjusting, then the patients don't feel comfortable when they bring in an associate. The reason is they make the personality one-on-one than a personality in a group situation. As a matter of fact, most people haven't coached with me in the Financial Fast Track. People are not going to coach with me in the Business Fast Track because I might be on a video or I might be writing a book, and that gains a personality. Then they say, how do I implement this? And then I can transfer that over because of the maximizing the mental capital. It's very efficient, it's higher leverage, and it's multidimensional. So that's an example. So we're not just, look, we didn't just go philosophically write these books like, oh, let's put together a workbook and see how that works. The very first workbook that was ever created for the Business Fast Track was called The Cycle of Creation. And the Cycle of Creation was really about how do we take an idea and formalize it into a concept so other people understand it. Then how do we build a framework where other people can help us work on it, and then eventually have it be a service, good, or experience out in the marketplace. And we said, okay, we want to take this concept of writing a book called Killing Sacred Cows. And we want to just take that idea and bring it all the way to New York Times, sell it for a profit, and lead to our program. And so we said, how do we do that? We got to understand what's good about the idea. What doesn't work about the idea or their liabilities? Where don't we have bandwidth or capacity or capabilities? And what resources do we currently have that would help us do something? what would the income look like? When would it come in? What are the expenses associated with this? What is the final level of production? And we had like 42 questions to figure that out. We went through and we said, how do we win then play? Which is one of the biggest concepts. And we actually pre-sold 22,000 copies of the book before it ever was released because of this model. Now that's the original model that we still utilize to this day. It's evolved a little bit, but we've put this into application. So if you're saying, how do I take an idea and profit from it? How do I know whether it's a good idea or not, and filtering which idea is the best? That's all part of that system, and that's still one of my favorite.
Right. I mean, with Cycle of Creation, it's about managing risk. You know, in a lot of ways, how do I create more certainty around my idea so that I know that, you know, it may or may not work, but I've invested so little actual money into the idea to find out if it's going to work or not, then I feel pretty good about it. But if I do that and I know it works, now I know, and Jim Collins in his book, Great by Choice, has a great analogy about this. He calls it fire bullets before cannonballs. So he says, look, you fire bullets at the target, and once bullets start hitting the target, then you fire a cannonball and you just blow and expand the market up because now you know it's ready.
Right.
You know, but a lot of times we want to fire a cannonball. We get everything ready to go. We fire the cannonball, it completely misses, and we're just devastated by it because we put so much time, effort, money, and everything else into the idea. And so Cycle of Creation really is all about that concept. How do we win then play? How do we create small wins for the project? So then we can say, wow, we just pre-sold 22,000 books. We got a winner. Let's do it.
Right. And then really take something that's just potential or an idea and turn it into profit.
Right.
I think, and understand when we're not ready. Because that's one of the big mistakes I've made as a business owner before we had these tools was, that's a good idea, let's run with it.
Right.
Right? And now we're running, and we're running out of steam because there's too much going on.
Right.
When we run it through the idea optimizer that's part of that model, we say, okay, this is a good idea, but we're not ready because it didn't score high enough.
Right.
The reason it didn't score high enough, we either don't have the financial resources today, we don't have the human capital resources today, or we don't have bandwidth because we're initiating another project today. And that's where, I mean, it just saves you a ton of money. So we've talked about marketing. We've talked about business habits. We've talked about creating intellectual property and becoming more of an authority. We've talked about taking an idea all the way to fruition to profit with a Cycle of Creation.
Yep.
Let's go into another one. What about the relationship capital aspect and identifying the marketplace, and how there's where so much hidden potential is right there.
The biggest thing, and we'll talk about this, this is one of the biggest areas of the whole coaching process is relationship capital. How do we maximize relationship capital? Your sole purpose can't be fully expressed without a sole purpose team.
Right.
You have to have that team behind you. If you try to do everything yourself, you probably wouldn't have a best-selling book, and you'd still be probably selling insurance.
Right.
You know, and trying to, you know, make that work and expand that without a team to really help you take, you know, your Freedom Fast Track would still probably be a concept that you're like, man, one day I'm going to take that to market, you know. But with a team now, people can get behind that and help make that work and push that up. And that's really what relationship capital is all about. But we also talk about other things. So, Garrett, have you ever, because I know I have you ever had a bad partnership?
Yeah, and only the most costly thing I've ever had happen in my life.
You know, relationship capital, we talk about this. What are some of the fundamentals of partnerships?
Right.
How do you vet, you know, whether a partner is real? Because, you know, I've certainly had partnerships where, you know, you look at the sum of its parts and they're greater than the whole, not the other way around, and you think, wait, what am I doing? You know, I'm expending more effort being in this relationship than I could be just on my own doing what I need to be doing. And so, you know, looking at all the different relationship aspects, your team is so important. If your team is not engaged and behind you and behind the mission of your business, it can't possibly grow and expand in the manner that you want it to grow and expand, and we help identify that. And one of the things that you just shared a story with us right before we were filming about someone's experience with the relationship capital and what that really looks like. And
that's probably one of the things that is most unexpected and under-promoted by us. Is when you're in a small group with us, you know, this is very intimate. There's one-on-one conversations. We have the Rolodex. I mean, you know, Dr. Steve Winwer, you know, he's in the advanced financial program, and he decided to not invest in the stock market anymore because it was nameless, it was faceless, didn't make sense. He has a business, and he built a software to communicate with his 33 offices. He's got 28 physical therapy offices, and he's got 8 chiropractic offices, and all this kind of stuff. So I know that math didn't add up. So what it means is he had 35 offices, not 33 or 36.
36.
I should be a financial guy with this kind of
totally
accuracy.
Yeah.
But so now he's saying, okay, I'm going to start marketing my software. What are the ways to do it? I've connected him to relationship after relationship after relationship. And he goes, I'm like, isn't it so cool to watch this open? And he goes, yeah, this is your stuff. It totally works, right? And so you're going to introduce people, because you know some of those same people, in the right time, in the right fashion, because we've built relationship capital, and we're going to share that. So that's also part of the program,
right?
Because there's that one-on-one aspect, that you're one-on-one coaching, creating the accountability, creating a customer in a tailored situation, and then obviously the relationship capital of being at the event and connecting with other people, because it's a cooperative environment, not a competitive environment.
Right. Well, and the great thing about this too is that this happens to be one of my specific skills, bringing two people together that are maybe seemingly unrelated and creating some kind of synergy between that. So I always look for those possibilities for clients to see, oh, you need this. Hey, I know this guy. You should talk. What's awesome about it is we do a quantum about relationship optimization, but the quantum in and of itself, why it's powerful is we do one-on-one coaching, and no doubt it's powerful, but there's so much power that's created in a group setting in the quantums where people are there in person. They're all talking together about a specific idea and sharing. And the great thing is that I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything there is to know about certain things, and so, or anything really for that matter. But when you look at what people bring together in the room, there's power created. One person will come up with an idea, and a light bulb goes off for someone else, and it's a community of sharing and exchanging of ideas.
And a lot of people
really
feel kind of alone, right?
Absolutely.
They feel like, man, I'm on this island. I'm trying to make this work. It gets a little lonely at this level of success or this level of busyness.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, let's plug in with abundant thinkers that want to progress their business, and that they know the more they give, the more they get. And that's the environment. And it's a safe environment to share.
Absolutely.
So we've never had a single person go, oh, they took my intellectual property or any of that kind of stuff, because it's just not who we let into the program.
Right.
So we've talked about a lot of different ones, but I know we have them on building teams. Architecture, production. We have them on also on vision. And getting clear about the vision and how that directly relates and translates to the bottom line. And making it a reality, not something that lives on the wall, but something that lives in the soul, something that lives in the heart, something that's expression of soul purpose, and getting the team behind it. Whether it's how to organize a team retreat, or how to effectively communicate these concepts once you go back to the office in a friendly manner. So that's all part of the quantum. Anything you want to say about some of the other workbooks? I know we've given them a taste of a few different ones here.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about vision and production, I mean, a lot of those are really intertwined, and we're going to spend some time talking about this in our next video, but just to kind of give you a taste of what we're talking about, I mean, from the vision standpoint, when you're clear about what it is that you want to accomplish, you know what you need to do to get there. Now, it's not always a straight line, as our friend Rich Christensen tells us in the zigzag principle.
Yep.
But we do have an idea of where it is that we need to kind of go to get to that end goal. And so creating now, when we know what we need to do from a vision standpoint, creating the right systems and processes to allow us to do that is very important. So, we talk a lot about managing by objectives, but the problem is if you manage by objectives, that's great. But if you don't have the right systems and processes in place in your business, management by objectives will be a failure for your practice. You have to have the supporting systems and processes in there to make it work.
And for me, systems and processes can feel perplexing at times.
Absolutely. Very complex.
But what I noticed is on the architecture production workbook, there's that analogy of, hey, before a flight takes off, there's a checklist. Right, and then it's just it's the checklist that you build for the business that was built, and a lot of that was when we were having breakdowns. I remember doing a webinar and not having it work, and there's all these issues, and I was like, we got to build a checklist. So that model got built, right? Or the project management system that was like, how do we see a project to fruition and all the different pieces involved, and having that right there. And so having these models that people can apply to their business, what I've noticed about them is they're just simple. I mean, I can implement them. We've used these in our business over and over and over again. Just this week, I've used the Stewardship Shaper 3 different times. VP of Marketing, pull it out, man. We just wrote, here's the main objectives, here's the operations that fulfill, here's how we know to compensate because of that. Then I talked to someone that's going to come on board as a results facilitator. We went through all the objectives, and then I just kind of refreshed on mine. I just said, hey, I want to look at this, and what am I doing? How can I hone in more on my sole purpose? So these are tools that are so easy to use once understood, and they're things I go back to over and over and over again myself.
Yeah. Well, think about this from a business owner standpoint. Where systems and processes are powerful and where we've really had to see these need to be implemented in our businesses, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a business owner who's had an employee who's an underperforming person who brings down team morale and really just creates a lot of stress and worry for the business owner. But they won't get rid of them. And the reason isn't because they are necessarily worried about confrontation or hurting someone's feelings. The problem is there's 2 things. Number one, they don't have a system to hire someone else. The second thing is they don't even know what it is that person does well enough because it's not documented. So they feel like, look, if I got rid of this person, there's a huge black hole of information over here. I have no idea how to even fill that hole once that person leaves. And so instead of doing the powerful thing for your business and getting someone in there that's really engaged and brings value to the practice or to your business, you keep that person on who continues to ruin morale and do those things. And when it comes to personnel, sometimes there is addition by subtraction. And I cannot tell you how many times we've seen this demonstrated with members that we've worked with on that specific issue alone. And if you don't have that in place, how much money are you losing as a result?
And that takes coaching every time.
Right.
I have to have coaching on that because we get emotionally wrapped up into people sometimes. We don't know how to have the courage to confront it properly, and we don't even understand the impact and the cost of that to our peace of mind. And so we've done that over and over again.
I've got a specific story about this too. I was talking with a member, and they had this person on, and they kept saying they were going to get rid of this person. They had to. Finally, we were on a coaching call on a Wednesday, and I said, listen, this is what you have to do. This is your only action item from our call. This is it. Friday afternoon, you pull that employee aside and you fire them. I want you to fire them on Friday. Now, I don't typically tell people what to do in their business, but I know this person wanted to get rid of them. They just couldn't do it. They went there Friday. They did it. I even texted them on Saturday. This is where we get accountability. Saturday morning, I said, did you do it? Yes, I did. Talked to them the next week, and they said, business has never been better. Business has never been better. So that's where some of the accountability and just kind of getting that push that, look, this is the right thing. You're doing the right thing, because we all need kind of that sounding board, and we want to feel like the things that we're doing are the right things.
Well, that's why we don't do this completely online. I mean, because, look, there's great programs out there, online programs, that we encourage people to be part of, to learn from. And what we especially encourage them to do is take that information and bring it into the Business Fast Track, where you've got someone to help you implement it. We've got someone to help you hold yourself accountable. I was just at dinner this week with the dentist, and he said, some of the stuff you taught me, I knew, but I didn't do. He says, but when I knew I had to get back on that call, I knew what to do, when to do it, and I knew I had to report to someone, and it got done. He said, now there was other things I completely learned that I was totally unaware of that have completely changed how I look at investing, I look at how I run my life. And see, we want to make sure that you've got the right accountability and support. That if you have a situation arise in the business, you don't know how to deal with it because you're too emotionally involved, you've got a third-party perspective that is there as an advocate for you to improve your business, improve your life, that will take and give you succinct, clear, direct answers, or ask you the questions you don't know how to ask yourself during those times. And so, whether it's the quarterly quantums, whether it's the one-on-one coaching, or whether it's all the additional supporting resources, the Business Fast Track is for people that want to take their business to another level because they've got a sounding board, because they've got accountability, because they don't know what they don't know, and they realize that there's other things that could help them out if they had that additional perspective. We are really looking for people that are willing to execute, that are willing to implement. Not just people that want to learn. If you want to learn read books, watch the videos. We encourage learning. But we want to make sure that turns into results and implementation that improves your life and improves your business and changes the trajectory. That when you go through the program, you could say, I took more time away from my business and I made more money this year. I know what I'm going to work for, and so do my team members. I know how to hire or when to fire, and I've got someone to support me in those things. I know how to take an idea and bring it all the way to profitability, and I know I can be supported along the way. I know areas where I have a little bit of fear and apprehension, and I can gain that courage because of the support that I feel in Business FastTrack. That's what it's here for. So if you're just starting your business, this is one of the programs that we have that can work for you. If you've got an established business that you just want to get more succinct, clear, organized, and take it with business principles to another level, because small business is small because of small thinking. So people get overly busy and they feel like they don't have time because they don't have the right systems, tools, and knowledge to take you to the next level. So if your excuse right now is, I just don't know if I've had the time for it, this is here to save you time. This is here to remove the constraint, remove the obstacles, find out where you're inefficient, even if you don't see where that might be because there's a different perspective. Part of the inventory that we have you doing, find out what you really have going on, what you should be doing, and what isn't necessary for you to get to the next level. So that's all part of the program. So if you're looking for that accountability, that efficiency that would take you to a more effective level of profitability and remove you from the trap of feeling like it's always depending upon you and that you feel like you're out there on an island trying to figure this out on your own with so much information coming your way from the internet, from in books and all that kind of stuff, let's disseminate that. Let's discern what's a distraction and find out where the opportunities are and capitalize on that. So Brandon, any final words you want on this segment to let people know about the Corley Quantums, about you as a coach, and those types of things?
Not specifically. If you've got this packet and you're watching this video, you've got the information that you need to get a hold of us and more information and support about the program. But, we look for creating growth opportunities within your business, making your business more efficient, helping you manage those relationships, and really helping you, take your business to the next level. Garrett mentioned freedom, and that's a big part of that. Rather than feeling like you have to be in your business all the time, how do we create some freedom? Because that, in its essence, that's why you created a business to begin with, so you had that freedom, and we want to help you get there to do that.
So I see this as division of labor. Sometimes a business knows, okay, I need to improve my marketing division, or I need to have more of a management side to things, or I need to have some help here, I need to get an associate, or there's these different things, and that's all division of labor, right? So that you can go deeper, so that it's not always about you. What's great about this program is it's division of labor for you, because you're bringing in someone to give a perspective to those different aspects of your business, but you don't have to hire someone full-time and break the bank. We are performance-based. The investment, if it seems high to you, that's only because you don't recognize the full results. And it's going to help you get a breakthrough just by investing at that level in yourself. Because, look, sometimes we have fear and apprehension because we're like, I can invest in something else, and if it doesn't work, I can point the finger. If I invest in this, it means me and my business, I got to take some responsibility. We're here to co-create and to be a partner to get you to that level. I know you can do it. You wouldn't be watching and considering this otherwise. So we're looking forward to you to take the next steps. Go ahead and pop in the last disc and make sure you've scheduled your business assessment. You can call 1-800-549-4532 and say, I want my business assessment if it's not currently on your schedule. Or you can email schedule@freedomfasttrack.com. Put in the subject line, business assessment, and we'll make sure that you get a live human being to do an analysis for you to understand what the possibilities are for you and your business. This is Garrett Gunderson on behalf of Brandon Allen, signing off for Business Fast Track. We'll see you on the next disc.